welcome to another Game Nexus video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Dead or Alive 3 for the Xbox. This game was released on November 15th of 2001, and it was actually an Xbox launch title. The American version of this game, as I may have mentioned, was actually rushed out so it could be released with the Xbox's launch. Later on February 22nd of 2002, the Japanese version came out, which of course had some added costumes and some added character moves. Then eventually on March 14th of 2002, you got your PAL version, which has the same cover art as the American version. And from what I understand, this has a couple of extra little things. Since these three versions were all released in different increments, in the Dead or Alive community, they were often labeled as Dead or Alive 3.0, 3.1, and 3.2 due to various improvements and stuff that they put in the games. For some reason, the community really likes 3.1. I guess some of the stuff that was introduced in this version, or like tweaked in this version, a lot of people didn't like. So that's why this version they don't like as much, and then they like the Japanese version a lot more. And I definitely have to say, of the three versions, the Japanese version, in my opinion, has the best cover art. Of course, eventually, just like with a lot of games, you got your Platinum Hits version, which has a pretty cool picture of Christie on the front. And as I had mentioned, I believe in my Dead or Alive collection video, it has a different back. You'll notice the back image here, instead of being the one stage that's on the European and American version, you just have the different background in it. So let's get right into this. Since I'm using an American Xbox 360, so I can get that nice widescreen like in the last video, I have to use my American version disc here. And all we have to do here is just pop open the system. Put the disc in. You're going to hear the system coming up in the background, although the volume's not all that high. And then here it is right here. System comes on. Everything boots up. We just gotta grab the controller, which just turned on here. Go into my Xbox. You'll see it says Play Dead or Alive 3. And then we go right into it. Okay, and when you get into this, you can see the Xbox logo, which of course is really stretched out. It's going to go right into the game. Now, normally you'd see that warning not to do anything to our game or we'll get you. But I actually have been playing Dead or Alive 3 on the Xbox 360 a little bit. So that's the cool part about this game, is it'll actually make cache data in the little partitions on the hard drive, and therefore it won't display that warning if it knows you played a lot. But it'll display it if you haven't played it in a while. And normally you'd see the intro here, but I've actually taken that out because I'll have it in a separate video. Now, as you can see here, new character is Hayate. He's Ein with his memory back. We have Hitomi, Brad Wong, who's like the drunken fist guy. And you'll notice that both Leon and Bayman are in this, that are no longer including one or the other. And of course we have Christie, who's an assassin, and she's English. And also, even though Hayate has his memory back, you're able to unlock, as you can see here, you're able to unlock Ein. And he's just as he would have been in Dead or Alive 2. So you can just play as Ein even if you wanted to in every mode except for story mode, since in this game he more or less doesn't exist. So yeah, he's now Hayate again. But what I'm going to do for this first bit of gameplay is I'm going to play as Christie, one of the new characters. And one thing I have to say about this game, as opposed to Dead or Alive 2, is Dead or Alive 2, I love the music. This game, the music track is actually pretty good, but I just honestly don't think it's as good as Dead or Alive 2. But it could just simply be that I've got more accustomed to the Dead or Alive 2 music due to there being so many revisions of that game. But, yeah, I still love the Dead or Alive 2 music a little bit better than this. And a lot of people compare this suit that Christy wears to Bruce Lee's suit in that famous movie that he wore it in. And you'll notice in this aquarium stage, I might have mentioned this in the Dead or Alive Ultimate video, but this aquarium stage was more or less the inspiration for the one in the Dead or Alive Ultimate game. And in the intro I'm going to upload in a separate video, I'm actually going to upload the version where Hitomi's swimming in the beginning, because I just think that's pretty cool instead of just panning around the building. And for a lot of fans who were initially seeing this game, they're just kind of like seeing low resolution movies. They didn't understand how this is graphically better than the Dead or Alive for PlayStation 2. But where you're gonna notice your detail is in like textures, lighting, reflective maps, and bump mapping. If you look at like subtle things on the character, like subtle lighting details and subtle clothing like details and just like bumps and stuff where you normally wouldn't have seen them, and sometimes even how stuff reflects on the environment, it just is a lot better than it would have been on the Dead or Alive 2. So that's where your better graphics are coming in. Of course, the character models are a lot higher poly here as well, but sadly a lot of people didn't realize that because it was the whole, oh my god, now Dead or Alive 2, now Dead or Alive is on the Xbox and it's no longer on the PlayStation. Tecmo betrayed us. Well, even though Dead or Alive 2 was first on the Dreamcast, so technically you could say they betrayed Sega first, but I don't think they betrayed anybody. They just wanted their game to be on a lot of systems. Now, if anybody didn't know, at this point, Tomonobu Itagaki was basically saying, well, the Xbox is the most powerful console, so I'm going to develop my games on the Xbox only, instead of bothering with doing like a multi-platform release. And that's why you got your Dead or Alive 3 exclusively for the Xbox. Now, from what I understand, there was actually a rumor that this was supposed to come on the PlayStation 2 originally. And upon looking, like, hex editing the XBE of this, the actual file, I found some hex code that actually said memory card with parentheses PS2. So I seriously do think that was true, that this was going to be on the PS2 originally. Maybe they actually took part of the code and then basically more or less remade this game and optimized it for the Xbox. And if you didn't notice there, when Tina hit the tree, a coconut actually fell, which is actually a pretty cool thing that happens in this game. There's just those little subtle details that just make it so much better, honestly. And this is a really cool scene, which, just like a lot of the scenes, you can knock your opponent off the edge, and there's like a stage down below. I always thought that was really cool in all these Dead or Alive games. I love the multi-tiered environment. That's one of the best ones. And of course, as you saw in Dead or Alive Ultimate, like stuff like the Great Wall and levels like that, they even took it to a more extreme, that you fall down the stairs and then there's even more to fall down. Or like in some of the levels where you like fall through a thing, and then you more or less fall through several layers and then you go there. So yeah, as the game developed, they were more or less perfecting the falling off the edge type deal. And you don't actually see it in any of my gameplay, but one of the most notable changes in the whole falling down type deal is, in this game, you can actually die from falling. Whereas in Dead or Alive 2, if you only had a little bit of health and you fell, you wouldn't die, no matter what. And now this is the Hellfire level with our boss Omega, or he's otherwise known as Genra. And I don't know why, but for some reason, a lot of times the first time I verse him, I always lose to him. I'm not sure why. He's one of those bosses that when you first see him, and you first fight him, he's probably going to beat you up pretty bad because of all like the lightning and fire moves he throws at you. Although then again, if you really want to be fair, I was actually pretty close in this playthrough right here. And this is his first costume, which has the all the reflective maps on the armor, whereas on his second costume, it doesn't have the reflective maps. And it seems like sometimes the game uses the second costume, like when he doesn't have one of those cinematic scenes in the beginning, so you'll see him without the reflective stuff, and it just kind of be red instead of being all reflective. And I always thought his like dual-bladed lightsaber sword was really cool here. And that's the only slowdown you'll see of Dead or Alive 3 on Xbox 360s. Anything that involves like an effect like this where it's like really getting foggy. The same thing happens if you knock somebody into the danger zone as a, I mean like into the explosive things in the danger zone as the ending. Then it'll slow down a little bit, but that's just about all. And actually a friend of mine told me that the reason why Itagaki seemed to like to show Christy naked so often is because he didn't respect her or something, but honestly, I don't know if there's really much truth to that. And of course what you see here is one of the many, the CG endings. At this point in history, Itagaki kind of took the liking to having CG in his games instead of in-game graphics for the movies. But personally, I always thought the in-game cinemas were a bit more endearing, and I always thought they were just a little cooler because everything was happening in real time exactly as you were playing it. So it just all felt like the game, and it didn't feel like a departure like this does, because you can tell this isn't part of the game. It's totally outside of it, being a cinema. Which, when I first saw this and how it goes into her eye like that, I always thought to myself, what is she, a robot or something? And now for the second half of this video, I figured I would just show you another story mode, because you've seen tag team mode, and it's really not going to add all that much in this game. The game plays really well, but yeah, here's Brad Wong. And the cool part about Dead or Alive 3 is it has these hooks that allow it to load more costumes. As I'd mentioned earlier, the Japanese version had more costumes. The American version got what's called the booster disc, which actually put the XPR and CAT files in the save folder under the T-data directory of the Xbox's hard drive. So actually, if you take any kind of extra character models, either be it the booster ones or even edited ones, like you saw my Dark Demon Wong character, which was kind of like him as a dark evil demon character, and you put them in the folder, you will actually get your character usable in the game. And of course for Xbox 360 here, all that's really needed is one of those transfer cables for the hard drive. You just connect that to the hard drive and then connect it to your PC and use something like Box Explorer. And of course for mine, since I'd got the 250 gigabyte hard drive, I had to use the Box Explorer that was patched for that hard drive, and then I was able just to find the Xbox save directory and put a bunch of my character skins on the Xbox 360 for play. And of course, since it's loading them just like it with the booster disc costumes, there's no kind of mod or anything needed. So I just found that a little cool feature, and of course you can get that with any Xbox 360 hard drive that you buy for the old Xbox. I'm not honestly sure if that would really work with the new Xbox hard drives or not. Someone can correct me on that one. And as I said, I always like these in-game cutscenes are really cool. Basically what Brad Wong's master trying to tell him is that the wine really isn't good for you. It's more or less corrupting your soul, and you kind of should stop it. The reason he calls it Genra is the ending boss Omega, also known as Genra, is like the true evil in this world, and you gotta defeat him. And the thing that I definitely have to say about Brad Wong as opposed to other characters is he's definitely one of those characters who has a lot of varied moves when it comes to like highs, mids, lows. And the way he moves, it's just so fluid, and it's a lot of times if you're playing against him, it's kind of hard to tell what he's actually doing, because he can like do this like crazy twist and actually hit you down low, but it looked like he was going to hit you high because just how he moves. And a lot of people online on at least Dead or Alive 4 would use that to their advantage, because you wouldn't always know what Brad Wong was going to do. Like he could, like as you saw him do right there, just drop right on the floor and start kicking you from the floor with only like the slightest notice of that happening. So I just found that a really cool dynamic little thing that Brad Wong can do as opposed to other characters. and just more or less catch you off guard. And then here we're back in the aquarium stage. Now we're actually fighting against Christie. And this is another one of those themes it's alright, but if you listen to the music here, in my opinion, it's not like the most exciting theme. It's just kind of repetitive, as opposed to some of the stuff in DOA 2, which I just thought sounded a lot better. And of course, he talks about a lot of drinking and wine and being drunk and stuff. And in this scene, he finds Genfu, and Genfu gets all mad at him, and now they have to fight and stuff, you know. And for some reason, that scene, whenever I played it, it always seems like the music is trying to drown out the character's speech for some reason. And this is one of those stages. It's actually the lower part of one of the stages, which in the actual game's files, it calls this like a 2, like it's the stage but number 2. And I was mentioning earlier how this game was more or less incomplete. There are a lot of stuff in this game that just was really never finished. Like, for instance, there was another costume for Bass, which was his cowboy costume, which wasn't finished. If you look at some of the early alpha footage of this game, you'll see him fighting in it. It has like a cow pattern. I think it's on his chaps, it's a cow pattern. But if you actually try to use that costume in the game, it is in the game's files. What's missing from the costume is his eyes aren't there. And of course, in the file, there's a texture for his cowboy hat, and somebody actually found that there's the model data was there, but his eyes and his cowboy hat and his sunglasses don't show up, so it just looks like an unfinished mess. Another thing that if you look inside the game files of this game, and things I'm mentioning right now aren't finished in any version, is you'll actually see Tengu.bin and files that are actually referring to the boss of Dead or Alive 2. I've actually applied that to a character and had them use the unfinished Tengu moveset. You can tell what they were actually going for, but I'm guessing since Microsoft just pressured them into getting this game out way too early, they just weren't able to finish a lot of the ideas they had for this. And honestly, if they just decided not to make it a launch game like they've been doing for a lot of their games more recently, like Dead or Alive 4 came out several months after the Xbox 360 because they just want to actually finish it. If they actually did that this time, they wouldn't have had so much unfinished, and I think more or less like here they kind of learned from their mistake and they didn't really ever do it again. But yeah, Dead or Alive 4 is an excellent game. Omega here is a very unique boss as opposed to a lot of the other games which have more or less just a regular boss ninja type character. And yeah, this is a very highly recommended game, and it's a nice stepping stone in the series that would show you how like stuff evolves from one to the other game. And I highly recommend anybody who has an Xbox or an Xbox 360, since it works on both, to pick up a copy of Dead or Alive 3. It's really worth your time. It has a lot of cool characters, a lot of customization options. Like if you like modding games, modding this game is really easy, I can tell you. And I just think it's a great game to add to the collection. And of course, if you're a Dead or Alive fan, you more or less had this already. So this has been my video for Dead or Alive 3, and I shall see you in my next Dead or Alive video. See you later.